So this video is going to be pretty cool for me because this is where I got my buck this year on October 7th. It's a piece of public in northern Oakland County. I first stepped foot there last year on the opener, so October 1st of 22. Did a bunch of spring scouting there as well, trying to find where I saw the deer coming from that I'll get into. So you'll see clips from my hunt back in October of 22. Add in the spring scouting this year, then my hunt where I got my buck, and then kind of when I went in there to pull my camera a week after that. And I kind of looked through there and kind of got a plan for spring of 2024 scouting. So this is kind of going to span, about a year and a half of past, present, future plans. October 1st of 22. So I walked in there kind of midday, scouted around, found this little cluster of trees that looked really interesting below the CRP field that I made a note of, but I wanted to sit back a little bit and kind of see if I can get an observation sit in. So where I was sitting, I was overlooking that cluster of trees, and it looked like they were kind of getting funneled in on the CRP edge of the field in this oak island with a tree line on the west here. So it looks like they were kind of funneled into that little cluster of trees. At this point in my kind of hunting career, whatever you want to call it, I wasn't as aggressive as I am now. So I would have sat that cluster of trees that day, but I held back and to get, more of an observation. And I probably would have been able to shoot the biggest buck of my life if I would have sat that cluster of trees. But, I had some does work through. I had a small buck work through. I couldn't remember what it was. Just looking through the binos, I was kind of far away, about 80 yards. And it was probably 30 minutes before last light, and all I could see were white tines through the CRP grass coming out. And I saw the deer, and I was like, "Holy cow! That's a nice buck. That's a big buck." So I kind of waited in a tree, let it get completely pitch black, got down nice and quiet, and knew that I was going to that cluster of trees on the 2nd. There's the point of that little finger between the two fields. The tree that I sat in last time was right behind that bush right there. So over here is the funnel. They run that track right there. But remember, right? This is the clearing that the second funnel comes down through right here. So I hunted it October 2nd. As I was climbing up the tree, I had a 6-point walk in right underneath me, right into that exact funnel that I thought. I wasn't fully up the tree, so I didn't have my bow yet. I just set my platform. I saw the antlers on the top of the grass, and I tried to pull my bow up because I was going to shoot him. That was a shooter for me. So didn't get a chance at that buck. I watched him walk right away. Got set up, and I saw a couple more deer come through that night. But then right at last light, I saw a couple bodies, deer bodies, mingling right underneath me. It was must have been like an overcast night or something like that, because I remember I couldn't see anything at all. I remember turning on my flashlight, and this was when I didn't have a super low lumen one, and I wasn't comfortable enough to get down in the dark, kind of improve as you go along, right? So I remember I hit my bright ass flashlight, and there was 2 8-points at the base of my tree, and I'm like, oh my God. So I knew this spot was good. I knew I was in the right spot. I knew I probably ruined it. So I'd have to push in a little bit deeper for the next hunt. So I go in there the next time, a few days later, not really sure the date, and this is what I saw. The county came in, burned the CRP field, and there goes my opportunity at those bucks. So I was walking my way in, I knew I was going to hunt that same spot, but I was like, all right, well, now I got to scout my way and find a new spot. So I kind of hit this hardwood point into the swamp. I saw a trail cut through. I'm like, okay, this kind of looks good. I looped back around to the next point and kind of saw that same trail through there. And I said, well, I didn't, I walked through that first point through that trail, so I'm not going to hunt it. I walked around, so I was going to hunt that second point. ended up having this deer come out. It was a 160-pound 7-point. Really great deer. When we found it, it wasn't dead, so I had to put a second arrow into it, unfortunately. Hauled it the 1.25 miles out with my buddy Justin. Thankfully he was there, because that drag was hell. That hunt was very successful. I was really happy with that bottom buck right there with the arrow. When I shot, he must have moved his shoulder and busted my arrow. I hunted that area a couple more times throughout the year and into the late season, and kind of the deer sign dried up. Didn't really see much. Once the leaves fell and I explored more of that piece of public, I noticed so many stands. So this place was getting really hammered. Where I was hunting, there wasn't any human sign at all. As I started getting further and further into this piece, I noticed that's where all the pressure is. And for some reason, between e-scouting and probably a bit of luck, where I ended up was an overlooked spot, no pressure at all. So I didn't even have an opportunity at another deer. I don't even think I saw another deer there the rest of the year. Now, fast forward to spring of 2023. I got my dogs with me. I knew exactly where I wanted to go look for this buck to see if I can find the bedding. I knew they were coming down that field edge. They were coming from a point to a point, walking that CRP field down. When I got there, I started looking around on this hillside with the buck rub here. I don't know if this is the bed or not. That's the only rub that I'm seeing, but there's a run. There's a run. We got white oaks right next to here. And if I step out a little bit, this is the backside of that lake where they skirt around, and then that's the little oak flat that I think that they're gonna circle around to. So this could be his bed, tucked. There's some running water, which is concerning, but if he's tucked, oh, here's another rub right here, a little smaller though, some historic. But if he's tucked into here and laying down, we got that whole ridge line, so thermals would drop. Yeah, he could be right in here. Like, we have all of this in here. I don't know how that couldn't be a bed. It's tucked so well up in there. So the last video was down there. Here, this is what we're looking for. So he is he's around here. Yep. Maybe not. Maybe he's rubbing from that other side. He's rubbing all through here though. So he's probably sitting down. Yep. As I worked through this hillside into that first point, I noticed all these trees were cut down. So the county must have came in and did some TSI or whatever. They girdled a bunch of the trees. So I had a feeling that the bedding was going to be ruined, because that spot looked pretty undisturbed before that, but then the city came in and did all that. So I wasn't really sure. So I had a feeling it wasn't going to be good come season this year. But I did put up a camera between the 2 points where I thought they were going to be traveling through. I had a good amount of bucks in the summer, July, August, early September, and then once they made that shift in September, they disappeared. The county must have came and did a little bit of work too, because I saw some people with equipment. So I wasn't too confident in that spot, but I was confident in my scouting. So based on everything that I learned and I remember, I knew this was going to be early season spot, the first available, or the first north wind that I could get in there. that was the day that I was going to hunt it. So it wasn't until the second weekend of the season, the 6th I believe it was, is when I've had that first north wind. So I went in for the evening hunt.
Well, it's bound to happen. That creek was waist deep, not just knee deep. This is the place that I scouted before. That's my camera right there. There's a point, the bedding is up through there. At the point, they come back this way, they circle around and come in through here. So I got the shot there. And it looks like there's a trail through there as well as the field edge, which I also knew about, that goes that way. So they come in from this area, circle back down that way.
Had that doe work underneath me, saw a couple more deer throughout the CRP that night. Oh, it is raining. I got ankle weights on, my boots are full of water, soaked, everything's wet. It's really raining. And the 7th in the morning, that Saturday, huge temp drop. So that's why I went in with my buddy Chris and I got my buck. So I believe it was the next weekend, I headed back in there to grab my camera, get it down out of the tree. I knew I wasn't going to hunt that area again. We walked all through it. You know, I kind of wanted to get a better understanding of where that deer was coming from, see what I had missed in my scouting, because that deer kind of came in the opposite way of what I was thinking. So I grabbed the camera and looked in that little area between those two funnels, those 2 points, trying to figure out why I wasn't getting anything. There's a big trail through it, from point to point, you know, and that doe that worked directly underneath me walked right underneath the tree that my camera is on. And I never did get that doe either. If it was camera position, it was to the left. That's my only thought, or there was just no deer through it. But seeing that doe work right underneath it, and the trail that she took was clear through the CRP, I knew that that camera was missing deer. So didn't really give me any intel for the next season, but after looking at that point through my binos and everything like that, where the county came in and did all that work, those trees were dying and stuff, so that's going to probably get cleared out for more trails or whatever they're doing, not sure. So I'm out where my camera is, right there. There's the camera. I hunted one of these 2 trees where I had that doe walk underneath me, and then that cluster is where I killed my buck. So here's my camera, and I think this trail is what the city cut through. It's kind of hard to see, but I got a picture of like some equipment, guys carrying equipment, and it looks like, where is it? Yeah, like right here, they cut everything down. All this stuff they cut off and trimmed this little trail here. So this could be why I am not seeing anything, but I mean, I watched that doe. You can see the trail. That doe came right through here. This was a bed. This was all leafed out in the summer, and this was a bed. And then she filtered right through there. So I don't get why that camera wasn't getting anything. But that's the ridge when I was scouting that I was up on. That's the bedding, that's the point there that they come in. What I thought they did, what they did last year, but I don't know if they're doing it this year. So I'm gonna kind of look around here a little bit, see if I can see any buck sign, try to figure out where my buck came from. But yeah, so my camera was right there, and those are all beds tucked in through there. Those are early season when they're all leafed out, I'm assuming. I don't see any rubs, and if that's all leafed out, that's a lot of shade. So yeah, I mean, they were bedding right next to my camera, and I never got them on, so something was up. I worked my way back to that cluster of trees where I shot the buck and tried to figure out his travel route. This is the field edge, so that's where the camera working their way down this field edge. That's a nice doe print right there. I like the size of that one. But they worked this field edge. This is what I thought I was going to be setting it up on. Into there. That's where I killed the buck. So they walked down here. I'm not really seeing any tracks on this field edge. There's not too many trails coming in and out of the CRP here. Last year, oh, it looks like they crossed right through there. Last year they crossed right through there. Right through there, yup. That's where they filter, and then you can see it right there. And then go up and over. So that's how they shifted this year. Through there. So I'll be putting I'm definitely gonna be putting a camera there. How I can cut off this travel. Put a mock scrape somewhere in this area. Maybe that for a licking branch. I'll have to think about that in the off season. But the buck came right through here. Right through this little trail. Stuck out right past here. There I was. That's where my arrow went. And then he worked his way, or was gonna work his way up and over that ridge to that bedding area over there. So that's interesting. Last year they were working this field edge to this point and coming across right here and then filtering down into this area. This is where I saw that group of bucks is right here. If mine would have came here, he would have got our wind because our wind was blowing that way from that tree right there. Luckily, crossed this way, right in front of it. So I'm gonna have to think on how I can predict that for next year. Like I said, if I put a mock scrape or something. But I definitely want a camera here. So I thought they were moving through that point over there, coming from that bedding area, but looks like they put some trails in and cut some trees. So I think the township ruined that bedding area. I still don't know where they're bedding though. I gotta figure that out. Where was he coming from? Where was he going? Right? So in the spring, I don't have time today, but in the spring I'm gonna scout where he died. Looked like a decent bedding area. So up over this ridge and those trees on that other island over there. That's what I'm gonna do next year. So for next year, for scouting 2024, there was that area where the buck ran into that kind of looked like decent bedding. I never did explore that little sliver of trees in the spring. So that's definitely an area that I'm gonna focus on. And as well as the continued transition that went off to the west of me. This CRP field is a hotbed for early season, and this buck kill from this year confirmed that. So I know I'm going to need to figure out that travel a little bit more, try to figure out where they're bedding to get in a little bit closer, but I think that cluster of trees with that trail right through there is going to be the sweet spot. So I'm probably going to put a camera there to monitor that cluster and hope they don't sweep south of it like they did in 2022. And they kind of stayed a little bit to the north this year. So I'm hoping that they don't, revert back. I might put up a scrape, I might not really too sure. But this is definitely an area that I think is going to produce good bucks here, hopefully for a few more years. I got my Euro mount back from them. Really super happy with that buck. And yeah, can't wait to hunt it again next year.